It's 12 o'clock. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Starr Midday News. And coming up in the bulletin, demands for release of Democracy Hub protesters intensify as 34 civil society organizations demand independent investigations into police's handling of the protesters. Meanwhile, President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Albert Kwabena Jumfour, has described the detention of the protesters as undemocratic.
Remanding the protesters for 2 weeks is too extreme and does not send positive signals when it comes to protecting human rights.
Also ahead in the bulletin, energy analyst Dr. Shafiq Suleiman criticizes PRC's justification for the latest tariff increment, cautioning that consumers will be worse off. And later on, Ghana races against time to meet 2030 rabies eradication, as only 1 in every 5 dogs in Ghana are vaccinated.
If you have a dog that you really vaccinate it annually, then the puppy can be vaccinated from 3 months going. But it's not happening in our system here.
Details of these stories and many more, including sports and what is trending on social media, all coming up in the next 30 minutes. Stay tuned in. Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA, also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM. Starr News. Informed in Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA, also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM. Starr News. Informed, in depth, in touch. Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Zeps 95.9 FM in Zebila, Nissim 100.1 FM in Lamshao, My Star Radio in the USA, also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM. Starr News. Informed, in depth, in touch. You're welcome once again to the Starr Midday News on Starr 103.5 FM here in Accra. My name is Dedei Tettey. To our very first story, and demands for the release of Democracy Hub protesters have intensified. 34 civil society organizations are demanding an independent investigation into how the police handled the protesters. The CSOs warn that the development could undermine the country's democracy. Starr News's and GH1 News's Echo Watchers joined me in the studio with details of the statement issued by the CSO. So, Echo Watcher, first of all, which CSOs jointly signed the statement?
So, as you said, there were 34 CSOs, and I'm going to run through a number of them. I beg your pardon. So the West Africa Civil Society Institute, Starr Ghana Foundation, Girls Advocacy Network, FIDA, that's the Federation of Women Lawyers, Human Rights and Development Services, you have Imani Africa, Pen Plus Bytes, Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, Center for Peace and Progress Advocacy Ghana, Foundation for Environmental Rights Advocacy and Development. Also, we have United Force for Development International Transparency Center and the Civic Space Resource Hub.
Okay, all right. And what are the key demands they're making?
Well, they are asking the IGP to respond publicly to these alleged violations of human rights as a matter of urgency, and they are calling for the immediate release of all protesters. All
right, thank you very much, Ekobwache. We'll be going on to the telephone line to speak to a rep of the CSOs making this demand with regard to the release of the protesters. We'll be speaking to Chairman of the Civil Society Platform on Oil and Gas, Dr. Stephen Mantel, to get some further understanding with regard to what they are asking for in relation to this particular issue. But while we wait to connect with him, I can take you through excerpts of the statement issued by the group. It says here that the undersigned civil society organizations condemn incidents of police manhandling, arbitrary arrests, detention without indication of location, and ill treatment of peaceful protesters over the past weekend in Ghana. These actions were and as confirmed present a grave violation of human rights and further deteriorate Ghana's standing as a democratic state committed to upholding human rights, including the right to peaceful assembly, freedom of speech, and the rule of law. Now, the protests, which called for government accountability, highlighted public frustration over worsening economic conditions, rampant corruption, and the growing threat of illegal mining, galamsey, to the country's water bodies, environment, and governance. Also, it goes on to say that Ghana has long been celebrated as a beacon of democracy in West Africa. However, recent developments point to an alarming decline in its human rights record. Civicus, People's Power Under Attack report has downgraded Ghana's civic space status to obstructed, citing an increasing number of attacks on peaceful protests and restrictions on freedom of expression. Similarly, the World Press Freedom Index by Reporters Without Borders and findings from Afrobarometer reveal growing concern about the erosion of civil liberties and the culture of impunity surrounding these violations. Also, the statement goes on to say that, let me just skip to the concluding part. It says here that the concerned organizations listed below also call on the government of Ghana under the leadership of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to act swiftly to restore confidence in the state's commitment to protecting human rights and the right to peaceful protest. The sanctity of our democracy depends on respect for rule of law, freedom of expression, and the rights of citizens to hold their leaders accountable. We urge government to work with civil society to address these concerns and restore Ghana's human rights record and democracy. With the elections just weeks away, this moment was crucial in Ghana's democratic journey, and any regression may be costly if not decisively and promptly addressed. And now more than ever, Ghana must reaffirm its commitment to the values of transparency, civic participation, and justice to protect and preserve its democratic legacy. And now, meanwhile, President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Albert Kwabena Jumfo, has described the detention of the protesters as undemocratic. He spoke at the 28th GJA Media Award ceremony in Accra over the weekend.
I want to commend the Ghana Police Service for exhibiting a high level of professionalism and restraint during that recent 3-day protest against galamsey by some citizens of this country. We note some excesses and provocations that occurred during the demonstration, and the GJA condemned these excesses in no uncertain terms. We also believe that remanding the protesters for 2 weeks is too extreme and does not send positive signals when it comes to protecting human rights. Our Constitution mandates us to protect the human rights of citizens in this country, and as the President, I will lead that charge. As a result, we add our voice to calls on the government, police, and the judiciary to take steps to release the protesters immediately.
You had the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Albert Kwabena Jumfo, there. Other reactions in relation to this, the Movement of Change leader, Alan Kwejo Chermating, says they have acted the police have acted unconstitutionally over its handling of the protesters.
To the credit of the Ghana Police Service and the contingent of police officers who had oversight responsibility for the demonstration, that they did indeed act professionally and with decency in the management and control of the crowd of protesters over the 3 days of the protests. Regrettably, the poor post-arrest management of the protesters by the police has been both unlawful and unconstitutional, to the extent of denying those arrested access to legal counsel, access to their family members, and access to essential medication, food, and water. Furthermore, the refusal of the presiding judges to admit the accused persons to bail in a criminal case in the nature of a misdemeanor, in my very respectful opinion, is an abuse of judicial discretion. My appeal to the Attorney General is to file an application for nolle prosequi to terminate the criminal case, or at worst, not to oppose an application for bail or the application for the abridgment of the period for which the accused persons have been remanded in custody.
You had there the leader for the Movement for Change, Alan Kwejo Chermating. Still on the issues relating to illegal mining, while the trend of major political parties shifting blame for the Galamsey crisis has become a recurring pattern in recent times, now altering their stance on the issue when campaigning in mining constituencies to win votes, raise doubts about whether the fight against illegal mining will ever succeed. This conversation resurfaced after George Mrekuduka, the NPP campaign coordinator for mining communities, downplayed calls for a total ban on mining. He accused the opposition NDC of threatening the livelihoods of mining communities by advocating for such a ban. GH1 and Starr News says Awisi Dedei Jange has more in the following report.
At the launch of Baomia Volunteers 2024 in Kumasi, NPP NP for Efidiase Asokore and Chairman of Parliament's Health Committee, Dr. Ayu Efriye, accused the National Democratic Congress of importing foreigners to engage in illegal mining and then politicizing the issue for their benefit.
Kabrani who said we are winning the seats in the mining areas, so they decided to go and import foreigners.
George Mrekuduka, NPP campaign coordinator for mining communities, reaffirming the NPP's position against banning small-scale mining, again blamed the NDC for undermining the livelihoods of people in the eastern region by pushing for the ban.
The NDC is behind certain individuals calling for a ban on illegal mining. The people we saw at the PRA were NDC members. This is the issue that affects you directly. If you are here and considering voting for the NDC, open your eyes.
Meanwhile, the NDC employs a similar tactic, holding the ruling government responsible for the devastating effect of Galamsey.
We bring good news today, and that good news is that we are all aware of the ongoing Galamsey operations here. Unlike our competitors who would shut down Galamsey activities without creating alternative job opportunities, our government, the NDC, will support and sustain those operations while promoting safer mining practices to prevent land degradation and water pollution. We understand that the youth need jobs, which is why we will introduce a 24-hour economy to create more opportunities for them.
As political parties continue to shift the blame, and with the country's water bodies deteriorating further, one question remains. Will the fight against galamsey ever succeed?
I will see Dedei Jange with GH1 and Starr News with that report. Let's now focus on what is happening on social media, and the issue of illegal mining and protests have been dominant, especially during the GJA Awards over the weekend. The president of the association touched on the protesters and the handling and their subsequent remand. Albert Kwabena Jumfor, he's advocating for the immediate release of the protesters. But after his speech, there's a video that's gone viral on social media of the president's reaction to aspects of the speech of the president of the Ghana Journalists Association. What are people saying on social media in relation to that?
Well, now, thank you. In relation to that, people are very upset with the president, kind of like asking themselves or asking him why he should be upset. Should he not be open to criticism? So we're going to take our comments today from Instagram. Bernard says that the truth is bitter. Mr. Wilfred adds, me here trying to read his lips to get what he's saying. Look at this man. He doesn't want anyone to talk about his infamous governance. Efo says, Oluvex, but Opana to talk the matter finish. Rachel says he only wants praises. Like, seriously? No wonder he's the worst president Ghana has ever had. He doesn't want to be corrected. Can you imagine? Such a mean person. Jeff says that posterity will judge Nana and that he has done his best. Good luck. Then Skido Boy says asks how the woman at the back is staring at him. Then we have Real Ganyobi, Charlie Ghana made a mistake. Then our last comment is Charlotte, who says, so you see, the problem with Ghanaians is that we always laugh about everything. Reason they never take us seriously. I don't think he would be able to show up in public places if it were some other country who take their demonstrations and impeachment seriously. So those are the comments we were able to read this afternoon, but people have a lot to say. Now back to you.
Thank you very much, Nanama Aqua, bringing us details with regard to what people are saying on social media, especially to the president's reaction to the speech by the president of the Ghana Journalists Association. Still in relation to the protesters and the calls for their release, the Free the Citizens movement, they had a meeting with the police command today at the Greater Accra Regional Police Command. I've been joined in the studio by Nanaya Wasare with GH1 and Starr News. Nanaya, what do we know in terms of the outcome of the meeting?
According to the convener, Adati Brownson, he indicates that this has been the most successful meeting they've had with the Ghana Police with regard to demonstration. He says that they have approved of their routes that they intend to use. That's from Opongolo to the Independence Square, and the police have their full. They have the full backing and support of the Ghana Police from the 3rd to the 5th of October this year. Okay,
so basically that's the police has approved your routes and everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the protest is expected to come off.
It's expected to come
and
off.
what is the objective of this protest?
So their main objective is to demonstrate against the galamsey situation in the country, and secondly to demonstrate against the citizens who were arrested during the last protest. And so it's a two-in-one demonstration. We asked how they were going to ensure that their people comport themselves this time around, so that we don't get to see any person getting arrested. And he promised, he assured us that this time around is going to be as peaceful as possible, and they're just going to follow all the instructions the Ghana Police Service has given them.
Thank you very much. Nanaya Osare with GH1 and Starr News. You're still listening to the Starr Midday News on Starr 103.5 FM. Let's switch our attention now to other issues. This one has to do with issues relating to utilities. And there has been some adjustments. Well, consumers of water and electricity will, from next month, which is just tomorrow, pay 3% and 1.86% more for electricity and water, respectively, following the latest tariff adjustment by the PRC. According to the utility regulator, it took into account the current forex and inflation rates before arriving at the latest increments. Here are details of the statement issued by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission.
The new tariffs are effective October 1, 2024. This review, undertaken within the PURC quarterly tariff review framework, is to account for changes in key uncontrollable factors, specifically the US dollar Ghana cedi exchange rate, domestic inflation rate, cost of natural gas and electricity generation mix, among others.
You had the details of the statement issued by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, but energy analyst Dr. Shafiq Suleiman has criticized PURC's justification for the increments. He joins us over the telephone line. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on the Star Midday News. Why do you not find reason in the justification of the PURC for this latest adjustment?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. And I think that the PURC has recently announced a tariff adjustment for tomorrow. That's starting from 1st October onwards, and they've announced a 3% increase in tariffs. I just think that the economy is still very difficult. Consumers are still struggling to survive. Life is still very tough. The economy is hard, and getting a tariff adjustment or electricity tariff increase means that consumers are going to continue to wallow in more difficulty, and their disposable incomes will be used to pay for electricity tariff instead of using it to alleviate the current economic hardship that the economy has actually meant on us. In addition, the factors or the reasons why they've used to actually explain the increment in the tariff are things that are not related to the consumer. If you are looking at the key factors that they use as the basis to increase the tariff, inflation, why should the consumer bear the brunt of inflation? This is a responsibility of government. Already we are suffering inflationary factors in other commodities. Why should it be translated to power sector? Exchange rates, by an example of a very bad economic management process. Why should the consumer be bearing the burden of exchange rate in tariff? And I think that generally, if you look at the factors, they also talked about the weighted average cost of gas. I mean, why should the consumer be bearing all these inefficiencies that the economy is offering, and to all of us, the inefficiencies the power sector is having in relation to tariff? The consumer should be protected actually, instead of being burdened with this increasing tariff in addition to the excruciating economic conditions.
So who should bear the cost?
It's not a cost. If it is a cost increment, then the consumer wouldn't have had a problem, because in tariff adjustment, if there's an increase in cost of generation, then there's no problem for the consumer to bear. But the substantial reasons the PURC is giving is not as a result of cost. It's as a result of what? Exchange rate depreciation, inflation.
But that will culminate in increased cost, wouldn't it? Because if the exchange rate is depreciating, it means that they will require more CDs to do whatever it is. Isn't that the case?
Yes. So this is not the time to then transfer the cost to the consumer or transfer anything to the consumer, because it has nothing to do with what the consumer is the side of the consumer.
So government should be the one bearing it?
Government should be the ultimate reason, because PURC should not even at the first place be thinking about any tariff adjustment at this point. Government should be the one bearing it. They should look at working on the economy. They should look at stabilizing the city, case closed, instead of looking at a short-term transfer of the cost to the consumer.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you.
You had to speak to energy analyst Dr. Shafiq Suleiman. This is still the Star Midday News on Star 103.5 FM. Shortly, we'll bring you the very latest in the world of sports. But let's talk about health briefly. And as the world marks Rabies Day, the veterinary service is disturbed. Only 1 in 5 dogs and cats have been vaccinated. Now, the service is worried this trend exposes the population, especially children, to the deadly rabies virus found in pets. The veterinary service wants district assemblies to enforce bylaws on responsible pet keeping to stem the tide. correspondent Ivan Heathcote Fumado has more from the Atrima Wabieja North District, where a 6-year-old girl died of rabies in April this year.
Rabies, a zoonotic disease usually contracted from cats and dogs through either a scratch or bite from a rabid pet, annually kills over 55,000 persons worldwide. Even though these deaths are preventable through vaccination, 176,000 out of 2.5 million dogs in Ghana had been vaccinated. This leaves over 2.3 million dogs and cats roaming unvaccinated. The Ashanti Regional Director of Veterinary Services, Dr. Mabel Abudu, attributes this trend to irresponsible pet keeping and the poor enforcement of bylaws on animal welfare.
It is annually. If you have a dog that you really vaccinate it annually, then the puppy can be vaccinated from 3 months going. But it's not happening in our system here. So that's why we are saying that people should be responsible for pets. And so we are educating them that once you go for it, then you need to budget for them. If you know you can't take care of them, don't go for them. But our welfare system, animal welfare system, in situations where you have them working, then all these people can be arrested. The stray dogs we see on our roads are all having owners.
The regional commemoration of World Rabies Day was held in the Atrima North District, where a 6-year-old tragically lost her life through rabies in April this year. District Health Director Dr. Eric Sapon says it will take a collective effort to prevent yet another rabies death in the country.
Children like playing with animals, especially the pets. And when they have bites or scratches from pets, dogs, and cats, they ignore it and they don't tell their parents. But notwithstanding that, rabies can be prevented. What do we do? So what we need to do as a corporate responsibility for both veterinary, individuals and all stakeholders is to ensure that our pets are vaccinated. They don't have the organism, hence cannot be transmitted for it to cause death.
So Ghana has just 6 years to attain the targets of the Global Alliance for Rabies Control, which aims at eradicating all rabies deaths by the year 2030. National lead of the Animal System Strengthening Project of DEFRA UK, Dr. William Edu, insists until the country is able to vaccinate 70% of its dog population, achieving this will be a mirage.
If we have a large number, 70% of people, dogs being vaccinated, then they will not transmit the disease. Because by the time the dogs meet, even if this dog is not vaccinated and this one is this one, then transmission will be broken.
Some residents took advantage of a free rabies vaccination exercise mounted at a Sufia in the Atrima North District.
You heard that report filed by correspondent Ivan Heathcote Fumador. Will bring you the full report later on Starr today. Let's now bring you the very latest in the world of sports. And Jones Aji is here. Good afternoon to you, Jones. What's in sports?
All right, good afternoon. So, Mediama Sporting Club continue their 100% start to the Ghana Premier League after beating New Boys Basake Holy Stars by 2-1. Kamardini, Mahmoudou and Diawisi Taylor scored in the second half to give the Takwa Boys a win that takes them top of the league table, although they have played a game less. Coach of the side, Nebosja Kapoor, says there's no secret to their success, but believes the competition in his team has propelled them and the team deserves what they've achieved so far.
This is really something what is not secret. Mediama is a team who really has very good players, and every position we are very strong, and players are working excellent. Serious competition in our squad is if you see players who are in Tarkwa, there is also a lot of very good players, and this is our secret, our effort from inside. We are really very tough, and I hope we will keep this energy, and we will keep and fix some things in movement, and we will be stronger in future. We deserve this victory. Also, congrats for all our supporters who came here and gave us support. This is also very important for us. We are always playing for them, and we are thinking about them, and this is a victory of all.
Premier League, unbeaten sides Kpando Hearts of Lions and Bibiani Gold Stars played out a goalless draw at the Kpando Sports Stadium in a game where coach of the Lions, Bashir Hayford, believes goalkeeper Emmanuel Kobe of Gold Stars stood between his side and a win, but he's not disappointed with the draw.
Why should I be not disappointed at all? This is the 4th match. We have not lost. We picked 3 draws and 1 win. We are still going forward. The only difference is we played home. So the expectation is that once we are playing home, we should have won. The people came with a strategy. After the first 20 minutes, I realized that they were in for a draw. So they packed everybody at the back. So they were choked there. We can't pass it. So we decided to go into the wings. And all the pull-ups were picked by the goalkeeper. Fantastic goalkeeper. In fact, the goalkeeper stood between the team and then Lions. He did well. I mean, I'm a coach, so I also have to admire the performance of my opponent. And then because they have the height, all the area balls they have to.
That'll be all for sports. My name is Jones Aji.
Thank you very much, Jones, with the very latest in the world of sports. And that's how we end today's edition of the Star Midday News on Star 103.5 FM. For more news, do log on to starfm.com.gh. My name is Dedei Tettey. Have a good afternoon.